And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single-family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, we're working on your information flow. And I'm doing so today I'm going to brag on my son. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to brag on my son, who happens to be a captain in the United States Army. He proudly serves as a member of the Texas National Guard, and he's been pretty darn busy. Now, he's busy as an officer in the military because there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of things that the military is required to do. And whether you know anything about the military or not, let me just tell you this. There's a whole lot of hurry up and there's a whole lot of waiting. And most of the time you're doing the hurry up stuff so that you can get to the waiting part. Oh, you don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? Oh, okay, let me explain it to you. Hurry up and wait is a reality. It's not a concept. It's a reality in the United States military. The Army does it. The Navy does it. The Marines do it. Space Force does it. The Air Force does it. The Coast Guard, all of them, they all do it. And what does that mean? It means you have a responsibility to accomplish a particular mission. And what you're doing up to that mission is you're doing a lot of training. Some of that training is specific to the mission. Some of that training is just specific to making you a better member of the service that you're in and a more refined member of the team. And there's a lot that you do. There's a lot of, let me just put it this way. There's a lot of lack of a typical 9-to-5 job. Because when you serve in the military, you're up early in the morning, you're doing physical fitness training, and then you roll into your actual job requirement, and you stay there doing your job requirement literally until late hours of the night, because there are things that must be accomplished, because if you don't get these things done, then your readiness falters. And your readiness is very important because you have to be ready to go do whatever your mission requirement is at the drop of a hat. And we all know what's been going on over the last several years with the military. It's been a go kind of world. Now, my son is recently off a deployment. He was deployed. I'm not going to tell you where he went, what he did. None of that stuff's important because that mission is still there. But he came off of a deployment. He had to go to a military school, and now he's back in his regular full-time position doing what he does for the Texas National Guard as a member of the United States Army, a component of the United States Army. And what he's doing is a lot of work. He's doing a lot of work. Now, one of the things that did happen now that he came back from deployment is he has a little more stability in his life. So in other words, instead of working literally 24/7, 7 days a week, which is kind of what you do on a deployment, you kind of get to settle back into maybe more of a 9-to-5 kind of job. But that doesn't mean there aren't late night meetings, there aren't late night phone calls, there aren't early morning contacts from your soldiers, that type of thing. So it's still a pretty busy environment for him. But instead of it being 24/7, it's more like, I don't know, maybe 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, whatever his actual requirement is. So what does that mean? Why am I bragging on my son? Well, he's a real estate investor. He is. He's a real estate investor. He's a member of Lifestyles Unlimited. He joined back in 2017 at the ripe old age of 19 when he was still in college. And he had a desire to use real estate to help build passive income to offset whatever job he was going to take. Now, back in 2017, he didn't have a ton of money. He didn't. And what he was able to do was make some passive investments in real estate, and those passive investments grew for him. They did. He made money off of his passive investments over time. And then those invested, excuse me, can't even talk today. I'm so excited about talking about my son. It's the dad thing, right? Okay. So those investments, they matured and they closed out. What did he do with the money? Did he go out and buy boats and jet skis and do all the stuff that, a young 20-something-year-old would do? No, that's not what he did, because he's disciplined. So he took that money, and you know what he did? He bought into more multifamily apartment communities. And over time, some of those investments have matured and returned the money to him, and some of the investments are still ongoing. Well, now that he's come back from deployment, and I can't tell you how many times this young man has deployed. He's deployed more in his 6 years in the Texas National Guard than I think I deployed in my 27 years in my entire service to the United States Army. Yeah, that's just been the op tempo that he's been dealing with. And one of the things in the back of his mind that's been kind of clawing at him is that he needs to work on his plan to replace his income. And he thought long and hard about it when he was deployed, and he realized that Lifestyles Unlimited was giving him all the information, all the education, all the tools that he needed to succeed. What he really needed to do was get focused and focus on something for him, as opposed to focusing all of his time on his military mission, which is not a bad thing. I mean, I'm not poking holes at it. I'm not saying he was doing the wrong thing. I think he was doing absolutely the right thing. But now he's got a chance to make a change. So you know what he's doing? He's making a change. He's getting himself kind of wound down from the deployment. He's getting himself grounded. He's talked to his beautiful wife, Juanita, about this, and they're in agreement. John, you need to take a slightly more active approach to your investing. If you're going to hit your goals and objectives that you're trying to hit, you need to be a little bit more active. So what does that mean for my son, John? It means adding in something called single family to his portfolio. And in the next segment, I'll tell you what he's up to. Stick around. Welcome back to the show. How you holding up? You holding up okay? Are you doing okay? Because I'm worried about you too. I'm not worried about just me. I'm worried about you. I'm worried about my son. And that's what we're going to talk about, is we're going to focus the worry from you a little bit onto my son. Because my son had an epiphany. And what he realized is that he can add something to his investment portfolio that might do something a little bit different for him than what he's doing currently for investing. Now, let me explain what he's currently doing for investing. He is what is considered a passive investor within the Lifestyles Unlimited community. That's what he wanted to do. That's the plan he laid out way back in 2017. He was going to take his money and deploy it into multifamily assets and allow that money to pay him distributions, allow that money to grow, allow that to capture equity, allow it to force appreciation, allow that investment to do what it needed to do till it reached its maturity. And that was his goal, and that's what he did. And really, it's kind of what he needed to have for his investment strategy, because he was so busy with the military, he really didn't have much free time. I mean, he had about enough time to date his beautiful wife, Juanita, and beyond that, he didn't have much free time. And I know this because I'm in constant contact with my son. I'm always checking on him. I want to make sure he's doing okay, and sometimes he has bad days, but a lot of times he has good days. But here's what I know. He's a busy dude, kind of like you, real busy person. And that investing modality that he used was very beneficial to him. However, one of the things that he and I have been talking about is the power of single-family investments. Now, as a single-family investor, you're probably going to be a little bit more engaged in the business model of investing, because it's really more of an active investment strategy. Now, remember, he was in a purely passive investment strategy, and it worked for him. But what he wants to do is be a little bit more active, because by being a little bit more active, what he's seeing is the opportunity to maybe make some better money in a shorter period of time. And he probably listens to my radio shows because, well, he's my son. And, I lay down some good stuff. I do it not only for him, I do it for you too. So in that notion, he's decided he's really going to get serious about single family investing. So I said to him, I said, okay, if you're going to do the single family stuff, you got to go back to school. And he said, what? Go back to school? What are you talking about? I said, well, when's the last time you went through all of the single family curriculum that's a part of your membership? And he said, never. And I said, okay, there's a shining example of going back to school. You've got to go back and take the curriculum that you didn't take because you weren't interested in that type of investing. So you didn't take the curriculum. But now what you've got to do, John, is you got to go back and you got to take all of the single family education that's available to you in your membership level and get it done. You also need to get a mentor. You got to do those two things. So you know what the first thing he did? Yeah, I love my son. This is the first thing he did. He went and got pre-qualified. Now, why did he go and get pre-qualified before he even did the single family curriculum and talk to a mentor? Here's why. He wanted to know if financially he could play in the arena. He wanted to know what he could afford to buy given his current financial situation. And he learned that as part of the Lifestyles Unlimited curriculum. He did. I mean, let me explain it to you this way. He has gone through the initial training that all of us at Lifestyles Unlimited take. It's the training you're going to take. It's the training I took. It's the training he took. And one of the things that they pound into your head, because you do focus on single family investment curriculum in the initial training program. One of the key things that's pointed out is you have to know your buying power. And if you can't get past that, doing everything else may or may not be of a benefit to you. So the first thing he did was he called our lender that we use. He's part of the Lifestyles Unlimited vendor program. We found him there. We met him in person, and he's excellent. And he's done all of my single family loans. He's going to do all of John's single family loans because he's really just excellent at what he does, and he understands the investor mindset, which is very important to have somebody like that on your lending team because, well, it's just important because they understand you. They understand what you're doing. They understand the mindset. They understand the methodology that you're going to follow. And that methodology is very important because it's that methodology that allows you to buy, rehabilitate, and put back into service excellent properties that people will want to rent and pay you 1/3 of what they make every month because that's just the way it works in the United States of America. Yeah, we spend about 1/3 of what we make on where we live. Yeah, it is what it is. So John got pre-qualified. He knows what his buying power is. He actually got shocked. He did. Now, I'm not going to tell you what he pre-qualified for, but he went for a big number. And you know what he got? He got the big number. I mean, a really big number. What do I mean by a really big number? All right, maybe I just spilled the beans. He got pre-qualified for $600,000. In other words, he can go out and buy a piece of investment property that has an after repair value of $600,000 and he can fully qualify for it. Yeah. Now, is he going to go out and buy something that maybe has an after repair value of $600,000? Well, maybe. And part of the reason he got a big number is he's actually thinking about buying a fourplex. He's thinking about doing a fourplex because what he's focused on now is he wants to be a little bit more focused on the cash flow than he is on the equity capture. But the equity capture is still very important to him. But cash flow, as he has realized, is the one thing that he needs if he's going to be able to step away from his job in the United States Army. And that's very important to him. So replacing his income is a key component of what this young man is trying to do. Now, I probably ought to let you in on, how much money he's working with. He's got a couple $100,000 set aside. He does. And he's getting ready to deploy it. But there's a catch. There's a catch. He's got to do the single family education, and he's got to talk to a mentor. And the reason for that is if he's gonna hone in on single family, and he's going to do what a pure single family investor does, he has to get all of the education that Lifestyles Unlimited makes available to him completed, because what it's going to do for him is make him a much more sophisticated investor. And that, my friends, is very important. In the next segment, I'm going to talk to you about some of the classes he's been taking. It's going to blow your mind. Stick around. Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, we're working on your information flow. And we're doing so today by, I'm kind of talking about my son. Yeah, I'm being a proud papa. I'm talking about my son. And I'm actually very proud of him because he alone made a decision about his investing future. He didn't do it because I suggested it. He didn't do it because his mom suggested it. He might have done it because his wife suggested it. I mean, that'd be important to listen to her. But I think he had the epiphany on his own. Because while he was deployed, one of the things that he realized was his income actually went down. Yeah, it actually went down. Now, I'm not going to explain the mechanics of why that happened, but it happened. And what he realized was he doesn't have any control over the amount of money that he makes when he's serving in the military. He really doesn't. They're going to pay him what they're going to pay him based on how the pay scales are structured, and there's just no getting around it. I mean, everybody wants the max pay, but you don't always get max pay. You get base pay, you get your housing allowance, you get your subsistence, you get your pro pay, and then all the things like hazardous duty pay, combat pay, they're going to blow me up pay. That's a made-up one, but you know what I mean. All those additional pays, those are at the whim of the people making the decisions about whether they're going to pay it to you or not. And you don't get to make that decision. You don't get to elect, hey, I want that pay. Somebody else is making that decision on your behalf, and it's already baked into Army regulations, and you're not going to change it. Wham! Get over it. Okay, getting back to my son. So as he noticed his pay fluctuated a little bit, he took pause. He did. And he realized, what if that happens again to me? What if I get deployed again and my pay fluctuates again? How am I going to combat that? Well, the easiest way to combat that is with cash flow, the passive income that comes from correctly investing in real estate assets. That's how you do it. So he's focused on educating himself specifically in the single family lane. Now, the courseware that's a part of his membership has 23 modules. Yeah, 23 modules. And the first one just flat out starts as your first single family property, overcoming fear and managing risk. Fear and risk. Why do you think that's the very first class? Because for almost every single family investor out there, those are the two things they have to overcome. If you have fear about investing, if you have false beliefs holding you back, you have to overcome those fears. You have to overcome those false beliefs. And as far as managing risk, real estate can be very risky. It's very risky if you don't know what you're doing. And that's why there's 23 modules in the single family track at Lifestyles Unlimited to help you manage risk, to help you understand it, identify it. You can't prevent it, but man, you can manage the heck out of it. You certainly can. Then the next class, how to work with a single family mentor. So we go from fixing you. I mean, there's no other way to describe that. It's really a fixing you, because you have to overcome fear. You have to learn how to manage risk. Those are two very important things you must deal with as a real estate investor. And then we go right to how to work with a single family mentor. Why do you think that's step number 2? Well, here's why I think it's step number 2. Because you got to get connected with somebody that knows what the heck they're doing in regards to what you're about ready to do. You want to be able to lean on them, lean on their experience, lean on their knowledge base, be able to ask them questions about the unknown, things that you just don't know anything about, and have them give you succinct and clear answers. It's what a mentor does for you. A mentor is actually a part of your education process. You didn't know that, did you? Yeah, that's part of what a mentor does. They help to educate you. Now they're not going to give you classes usually. They're going to talk to you. They might tell you did something dumb, but they're going to be real with you. And hopefully they're going to talk to you about something that could go wrong before it goes wrong, and you can mitigate it. Wouldn't that be nice? Then beyond those classes, there's 21 more modules. I mean, do you want me to read them all to you? I mean, that could be boring radio. I'm not sure I want to do that. But I will tell you what the next one is. It's the single family timeline. What's that? A single family timeline. Well, a single family timeline is just that. It teaches you the entire timeline from literally cradle to grave regarding the investment you're about ready to make and what you need to do every step along the way. Wouldn't that be nice to have that? And then once you understand the timeline, there's a class on identifying your investment strategy, because you have to know where you're trying to get to. Now, my son knows exactly where he's trying to get to, but I'm sure that class that he took helped sharpen the saw, so to speak. The courseware is very comprehensive. It covers every aspect, every element that you need to cover as a student of single-family investment. And it's important that you do all 23 classes. Now, I talked to John this morning, literally just before radio. He called me, and I said, hey, what class are you on? He says, I just finished 6. I said, okay. So I looked at what number 6 was, how to build your team. Very important concept. You probably don't even know what that means, how to build your team. Well, let me tell you what it means. You're going to build a team of professionals around you. They're going to do 99.9% of the heavy lifting. Now, if you want to do some of the heavy lifting, you can. Do you need to? Probably not. That's why you have a team that supports you, a team that consists of a variety of people. Now, my son's already got a lender on his team. He had that already. But what he doesn't have is a team built specifically for the area that he's considering investing in, which is a part of his investing strategy. You see how this ties together? Do you see how all this builds on top of itself? Very important concept to understand what the team is and how to build it and who you need to have on your particular team. Now, I'll tell you, my son requires several people to be on his team. He's already got the lender. I mentioned that before. He needs a realtor specific to the area he wants to invest in. He needs a mentor. He hasn't established a mentor yet. He needs a contractor. He needs subtrades. He needs maybe a tax attorney. You see where I'm going with that? Yeah, I'm not even. I'm just going off the top of my head of all the different things he potentially needs. And there's others he might need. And you know what? That class is going to cover all of them. Isn't it nice to know that if you're taking a class from an organization, that they give you the information that you're looking for, as opposed to a bunch of theory, a bunch of mumbo jumbo? Yeah, I'm picking on college a little bit, but Lifestyles Unlimited is not like college. Lifestyles Unlimited is like getting the answers to the questions that you are looking for. Because if you want to be a real estate investor, you need succinct, clear answers that give you the answers you're looking for to the questions that are concerning you. In the next segment, more on my son John. Stick around. Welcome back to the show. So how are you holding up? Are you holding up okay? Because I'll tell you, I'm laying down a lot of stuff, and I hope you're picking it up. And I think the most important thing that you need to understand is that Lifestyles Unlimited is here for you. Lifestyles Unlimited exists specifically to help you, the potential real estate investor. Now, if you've been listening to this radio show for any time, or if you've been listening to our sister show, the Del Walmsley radio show, one of the things that you're going to find is that we talk about real estate investment as an alternative to what you're currently doing for investment. And it works for us. It works very well for us. And it can work very well for you too. But you got to get on board. You got to check it out. You got to go to lifestylesunlimited.com. You got to sign up for a free workshop by clicking the Start Here button and just get yourself going. Because what it gives you access to is the education that you're looking for, the education that you need to change the dynamic of your life. Now, my son is shifting his investing strategy. He's looking to add single family into his portfolio because he understands what single family brings to the table. He also understands that it's going to bring a little bit more hands-on requirements, and he's okay with that. And here's the thing about being a Lifestyles Unlimited member. We teach you how to be hands-on without having to go to the property. But it's pretty cool, right? Because you build a team of people that support you. That's what you do. And you do it very well. And you rely on this team, and this team relies upon you because they're providing a service that you need, and chances are you're paying for it, and that's okay. So you're helping them achieve their goals while they're helping you achieve your goals. It's a nice symbiotic relationship. Very nice. So let's get back to John. Let's get back to the single-family core curriculum that he's going through. He's knocking it out. He's serious about it. I mean, he started the core training a couple of days ago. He's already through the first 6 classes. Now, he's not just going through them in order to get through them. He's going through them to get the information that he needs out of them. And then he's taking the information that he needs and he's applying it to his business model. See, the whole core curriculum is designed to give you your business model. So here's the question I have for you. How difficult is it to put together a business plan if the entire business plan is laid out before you? I would say it's pretty easy, unless you just don't want to do it. If you just don't want to do it, you're not going to do it. But if you want to do it, you will excel. Kind of like my son. See, he didn't want to do single family. I've been talking to him about single family, well, going all the way back to 2017. And the problem that he identified was that he really just didn't feel he had enough available time to take on the requirements of single family. Now some of you think, wow, that sounds like that's like a ton of a time commitment. And I'm here to tell you it's not that much of a time commitment. I think he was making it bigger in his head because he was trying to figure it all out. And he was busy with the military, and they were taking their ounce of blood out of him. They definitely were taking, well, pound of flesh is really the proper saying. So he just didn't feel like he had the time to contribute to pursuing single family. And he was doing multifamily as a passive investor, and he was doing okay with that. So he just let it ride until this recent deployment. And his pay got a little jerked up. And he realized that when his pay got a little bit jerked up, because, they didn't pay him for the first month and a half he was deployed, by the way. Yeah, it was a snafu. The whole unit got snafu'd. So when you don't have income coming in, how do you pay your bills? And that was his dilemma. He's deployed. He's not making any money. And then when he finally starts making money, he's not making as much as he was making before he got deployed. Oh, yeah, it's just a crazy, crazy mess. And he endured that. And he realized that if he had more passive income, he could have endured that a lot easier. So now he's on a hunt to develop passive income. And he's decided that instead of doing multifamily like as an IRO, because he feels that's too big of a commitment, he wants to start a little bit smaller. He wants to start with, well, maybe a fourplex or maybe just a single family house. And what he's doing now is he's figuring out the where. He's got to figure out the where. Now, as part of figuring out the where, he's got to develop his relationship with a single family mentor. Now, as part of his membership program, he gets access to all of these single family mentors. So he can either elect to find somebody outside of the organization, which is kind of dumb, or he can choose to use somebody within the organization that is a dedicated mentor who's very good at what they do. And what he's chosen to do is talk to one of the dedicated mentors. I think he wants to talk to Doug. And I think the reason he wants to talk to Doug is because Doug has done a ton of single-family assets. And Doug has also done some plexes. So that makes Doug uniquely available to him, especially because he's considering the Houston market as a place he wants to invest. But one of the wrenches I threw into his plan, yeah, you know how dads are. We throw wrenches in, right? And it's got to be tough for him having a dad like me because it's all I do is real estate for you guys, right? Okay, here's the wrench I threw in. Chase the returns. He said, what? I said, chase the returns. He goes, what do you mean chase the returns? I'm already chasing the returns. I said, but have you looked at the different locations where Lifestyles Unlimited members invest and determined which ones are going to give you the best return on investment? I think that's an exercise you need to do. And he said, well, haven't you done a radio show on that? I said, yeah, I've probably done a radio show on that, but you shouldn't rely on a radio show that I did. You should go out and develop your own information. He went, oh, yeah, I forgot about that part. I said, yeah. Now, I could do a radio show for him and for you too, where I look at the different localities. But I think that's more of a personal decision, because here's one of the things he's got to consider: where he lives. The other thing he needs to consider is where he wants to invest. Now, where he lives in Texas doesn't provide the best opportunities for single family. But if he looks outside of where he lives in Texas, the markets of San Antonio, Houston, Dallas-Fort Worth, they provide some really good opportunities. And because his job requirement has him in Houston a lot, he was thinking about, well, I'll just buy in Houston because I'm there a lot. I could check on my properties. And I said, well, wait a minute, there's a flaw in your thinking. And he said, what do you mean there's a flaw in my thinking? And I said, why do you need to check on your properties? And he went, oh, yeah, I don't have to check on my properties because I will have done everything the right way. I will have rehabbed them correctly. I will have addressed anything that could have gone wrong in the next 5 years or so. Chances are nothing's going to go wrong. Why do I need to keep driving by my properties? And the answer is, you don't. You don't need to. Your residents don't need you coming by. You don't need to go by. It's just the way it is. And when you've got the right residents in your property, enjoying your property, taking care of your property, you've got a win-win equation for not only providing somebody great housing that's looking for it, but for your own financial benefit. Because in the single-family space, you make money in the form of cash flow, which we've been talking about this entire show, but there's also the equity positions, the capturing of equity when you do it right. In other words, if you put, say, $35,000 into a deal, you want to capture at least an additional $35,000 of equity. That would give you $70,000 of total equity. Now, you could just buy real estate and not capture equity. But when you learn to do it the Lifestyles Unlimited way, you're going to capture equity because you're going to know what kind of assets to target. You'll target those assets. You'll acquire those assets. You'll renovate those assets. You'll put those assets back into service. You'll find great residents to rent those assets. And then you'll operate those assets for as long as you need to until you get to your exit strategy. Exit strategy, what does that mean? That means you get to a point where you make a decision about selling or possibly just refinancing the property, taking the money out of the property, and then turning around and buying two or more to replace the one that you just took money out of or sold. Kind of a neat equation, right? This is how you build up your assets. You start with what you have, you invest it, and then you cultivate it, and then you pull it back out and you buy assets with that money to replace the ones you've just divested, plus another one. So you're growing your portfolio, and pretty soon you're going to have the passive income you need so that you never have to work again. And that is my son's goal. If you want to do what I'm doing, you want to do what my son's doing. You want to do what the members of Lifestyles Unlimited are doing. Go to lifestylesunlimited.com, sign up for a free workshop, and let's get you going.
Thank you for listening to Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Ready for more of the map? Visit lifestylesunlimited.com. Explore our videos and articles. Click on the radio tab to access past show podcasts. View the radio show schedule and listen to our best of radio shows. Want to continue the conversation? Follow Lifestyles Unlimited on Facebook today. We want to meet you as well. Sign up for a free workshop at lifestylesunlimited.com. Until next time, remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of this station, its affiliates, its management, or advertisers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.